Yo, what's up? Remember there was a build called Burning Arrow Elementalist and it was way too powerful, so they simply nerfed the skill completely and now it is pretty much dead and useless. But in 3.16 they actually buffed Explosive Arrow for Ignite, and that's why this is actually a viable new build that pretty much no one plays. There's like two people on leaderboard and they both don't know what they are doing, so that's why I ended up making the build myself, creating it from scratch, and made a working build for you guys. So this can also be a potential league starter, but you should probably start as again Elementalist, but maybe another Ignite, a spell probably, because it will be easier to scale, especially at early levels. So maybe an Armageddon brand Ignite, or maybe Fireball, I'm not sure. So something spell, so you can actually start like that, and once you get some pieces, because this is an attack build, you also need accuracy, those kind of stuff. But we also use Ice Golem, so you might use Ice Golem, let's say. So once you fix those issues, you can simply start playing as Explosive Arrow. I haven't spent more than 20 Exile, probably. Maybe even I spent maybe somewhere between 15 Exile. So the build is actually cheap enough. And most of the money goes to Awakened gems, actually. The gear itself is less than 10 Exile, because most pieces are 1 Chaos. Only the helmet and I believe the ring is like 1 Exalt, maybe something like that. But the other pieces are like 1 Chaos, 10 Chaos, 50 Chaos, whatever. The jewels are also not super crazy. And so yeah, we will just check those after the clips, obviously. So I first want you to watch some clips. So again, this is a lower budget build. Feel free to spend more if you want. But I wanted to make something that can also be played as early league. So hopefully this can also be a good 3.17 league starter, let's say. I will be right back after some endgame boss clips and we'll explain everything you need to know. Alright, I'm back. Now I will explain what you need to know about this build and also the items, what you need to get, how you can craft or whatever. So everything as usual. So don't forget to subscribe if you are new to the channel. I make lots of cool build guides and most of them are also non-meta, so you can maybe enjoy different things. So the build is based on Elementalist Ignite. So Elementalist can actually, let's just first take a look at the ascendancy point so you can understand better. Shaper of Flames. Your hits always ignite, so you don't even need to invest in ignite chance. Even if you have somewhere, let's say 10% ignite chance, it doesn't matter. It will actually be 100%. All damage can ignite, so that is something huge actually. That means that you can even ignite with cold damage, lightning damage, chaos damage, those kind of other damage types. Normally ignite is a fire dot damage over time actually. The damage will obviously be fire, but you can just ignite from other sources of damage. That's why on some of our pieces we will also maybe use like cold damage to bow attacks, cold damage to attacks, maybe lightning damage to attacks. So they actually work, so feel free to try and use other items also. So yeah, this is what that does pretty much. Mastermind of Discord, this is super powerful. Exposure you inflict applies an extra minus 25% to the affected resistance, which is gonna be fire because we also use Anger Aura. So we use Wave of Conviction to apply exposure. That already applies like minus 15, and with this it is actually minus 40. And there is also, I'm trying to find that in Path of Building right now, give me a second. Yeah, a Fire Mastery that also gives an extra minus 5 fire resist to the exposure. So I believe the exposure applies something like minus 45 fire resist to the enemy, if I haven't calculated it wrong. So this is a super powerful passive that Elementalist has and provides millions of damage. The next passive, Heart of Destruction, gain convergence when you hit a unique enemy no more than once every 8 seconds. And if you don't have convergence, which is gonna be while killing normal monsters in maps pretty much, so you will have that maybe like 90% uptime while in a map, unless you fight maybe a beyond boss or something like that. So you will have lots of area of effect, so you can actually clear better the maps, you know. But once you get that convergence by attacking a unique enemy, which is gonna be a boss obviously, 30% more elemental damage, and it lasts 4 seconds. So every 8 seconds you can have 4 seconds of 30% more elemental damage, which again provides another couple of maybe million damage. And finally, Liege of the Primordial, I picked that so I can actually summon some golems and I don't have to worry about them, because if they die, they can actually get resummoned after 4 seconds. You don't even need to do anything. And this also gives us +1 golems. I also have +1 golem on talent tree. That makes 3 golems. And finally, an Anima Stone, unique jewel, which is like 20 chaos, 30 chaos. Maybe it's going to be a little more expensive at league start, but right now it is super cheap. That also gives another +1 golem. So I have 4 golems total. So let's explain the golems also. The golems that I'm using are Lightning Golem for attack speed, because Explosive Arrow is a bow skill that obviously needs attack speed, so this is super important. Lightning Golem is super important. By the way, for all the golems you can also get later on anomalous alternate qualities, because that actually increase the effect of all the golems buffs. So just get anomalous quality for all the golems later on and make those buffs even more powerful. So Lightning Golem provides attack speed, which is super important for this build. Chaos Golem, physical damage reduction, so you can be tankier against physical damage. Flame Golem simply provides damage for us. And finally, a Stone Golem that provides huge life regeneration, so that is a good source of healing. And so for the final golem, yes, I use 4 golems, but there is actually another honorable mention, let's say, Ice Golem. So especially at early league, if you just want to start playing this build after you get the required items, you should probably maybe use, let's say, Ice Golem, because it provides huge accuracy. Because this is an attack build, you normally need to get accuracy on talent tree. I obviously did that. So right now I have 95% accuracy, which is enough hit chance. But if you have lower than 90%, let's say, you should definitely use an Ice Golem instead, which just caps your hit chance immediately because of all the buff effects we have for our golems. So simply ditch any of the golems that you want. You should probably get rid of Flame Golem. You will maybe lose DPS, but accuracy is actually more important. Or if you don't care about physical damage taken, just get rid of Chaos Golem if you want. So Ice Golem is also an honorable mention, so don't forget this if you have any accuracy problems. So yes, we just checked the ascendancy, so let's just check the explosive arrow right now. And after that I will start explaining the gear that you need to buy, craft, whatever. So explosive arrow is an fire, what's this? Yes, fire, duration, and bow projectile skill. So you obviously need a bow. So how the skill works, you can actually stick fuses. It is how it is called, all right, on the skill itself, to the enemy, or you can also stick them to the wall. After like 1 second they actually detonate. So in that 1 second it can be higher or lower if you invest in some duration nodes, maybe use some gems that alters the skill's duration. So normally it is like 1 second of duration. So if you can stick more fuses in that duration, it can stack up to 20 fuses actually. So you can actually deal more damage because each fuse adds more DPS, and that's why you need to stack as much as possible. So right now I have around 7 attacks per second. So that means that I can pretty much apply maybe 7 fuses, maybe 6 fuses if I am not fast enough, maybe. Yeah, so that's pretty much it. So you need to stick lots of fuses, as much as you can, let's say. It is probably impossible to stack 20 fuses on this build because I actually do not use barrage support, because that makes no sense in my opinion for this build. This is not a crit attack build, this is an ignite build. So barrage actually destroys half of my DPS. So yes, you can maybe stick 20 fuses with barrage, but you will still deal the same DPS. That's how I saw it in Path of Building. So that's why I actually shoot the arrows one by one, and that is how I can even attack 6 times, even 7 times. That is how my Path of Building, that is what my Path of Building shows right now. So you need to have good attack speed, try to aim at least 5 attacks probably, so at least 5 fuses. So that's why you can do more DPS. So right now I can do around 5.5 million DPS, ignite DPS, and it lasts like 2 seconds I believe, so 11 million total damage per ignite. So really powerful, and it is enough, alright. So if you can manage to, let's say, stick 20 fuses, which is obviously impossible, the DPS is actually 22 million. But we cannot do that. If you have any clever ways to increase attack speed even more, maybe let me know in my Discord, so I can actually update the Path of Building so other people can also learn. Because this is again something that I made myself. There is no such thing as explosive arrow ignite right now, so I actually made the build myself. So maybe I couldn't think of something. If you know anything to boost the build, upgrade the build, please share so I can update the Path of Building. So yeah, that's pretty much it about how the build works. So attack speed is super important, so obviously we also use lightning golem, so that also helps a lot. So let's just start explaining the gear now and what we need to use. So we are in the gear section right now. I will just start explaining all the items one by one. So first of all, the weapon, because this is a skill that requires lots of attack speed, so we can actually stick more fuses as I just explained. Our weapon choice is Quill Rain, a 1 chaos bow that you can even buy at day 1 league start, because it is a common drop and it is like 5 level unique. So the required level is 5. So you can even buy this while leveling. Maybe try to level as explosive arrow ignite, but again I'm not sure about that at league start with lower investment without the gear set required, let's say, because you will need accuracy, good attack speed, those kind of stuff. So that's why you should probably start as a spell ignite, something like Armageddon brand, maybe fireball, and level your character like that to the maps, buy some required gear, cap your accuracy, and then start playing as explosive arrow. So yes, I also explained this at the start, but I wanted to make sure that you understand this part, alright. So the bow is Quill Rain because it has 3 attacks per second. It is the fastest bow in the game. Other bows are mostly like 1.5 attacks per second. The good ones, let's say, at least starts from that. So you will just lose half the attack speed if you don't use this. Obviously this bow has a downside, 30% less damage, but the high attack speed actually covers that up. So you will actually feel better while playing, you will feel faster. So it is so much fun to play with this bow. So a 1 chaos bow is actually your end game bow. I'm not sure if any rare bow can outperform this, but those bows are at least like maybe 30 exalt. Or I don't know if you can craft anything that boosts ignite damage on bows. Yes, gem level helps because explosive arrow actually has a base damage in it. So higher gem level meaning more DPS for this build. So explosive arrow is actually a unique skill that is not like the other arrow skills. Elementalist is also like this, but something like Ice Shot, Lightning Arrow, Rain of Arrows, I don't know, maybe Blast Rain, those kind of skills actually get damage from your bow and jewelry, jewels, those kind of stuff, because they actually need added damage. But these skills, Explosive Arrow and Elementalist, they actually have their own base damage, so gem level actually boosts them a lot. So in the end, maybe you can try a high attack speed bow that also has lots of gem level in it. +1 gems, +2 bow gems, maybe +2 support gems. Also use maybe empower, but I'm not really sure, I haven't calculated that. So feel free to tinker with the path of building, maybe see if any rare bow is better or not, but make sure you calculate that attack speed, because you will have a way slower attack speed. You will be slow, alright, if you don't play with Cool Rain. So this is pretty much about the bow. Nothing much else to explain. A 1 chaos bow to do most of the content. Next item, Quiver. There is obviously damage over time multiplier with attack skills on all Quiver types, but you can also get fire damage over time multiplier on Hunter Influence if you want, or even get the both if you have the budget, because I wanted to play this as low budget as possible, let's say. That's why I haven't gone for that. So just put damage over time multiplier, some flat attacks with some random stuff. People don't even buy those kind of stuff. Also, I needed accuracy, obviously. That's why accuracy. And finally, life. So again, a better one can also have Hunter Influence and both, you know, damage over time multiplier and fire over time multiplier at the same time. It will obviously provide you huge DPS. Helmet. One of the expensive pieces that I'm using. Ascendant Chant. Simply a best in slot for most of the archer builds. That's why this helmet is usually like 1 exalt, 1.5 exalt. It normally usually have the same price through the whole league. Even at league start, this is mostly like 1.5, maybe goes to 2 exalt. So this is gonna be one of the expensive pieces that you are gonna buy. Obviously you also need the helm enchant, so you might need to pay extra for the enchant, or maybe just give it to a trusted booster on TFT Discord. Obviously go for that, but no one plays explosive arrow, so the enchant, so they actually charge less compared to other enchants if you want to pay for a service provider, because no one plays explosive arrow, so it is a cheap enchant actually. So what this helmet does is pretty much triggers spells once you attack with a bow, which is gonna be explosive arrow. So the skills that you want to use in this: Wave of Conviction to apply that exposure, Flammability, that is our curse choice because it lowers the fire resist of enemies and also adds ignite duration, so it is also good for total damage, not DPS, alright? That actually increases the total damage that the ignite does. It is actually two different things. So the DPS obviously will be the same, but flammability obviously lowers the fire resist, so it also provides us huge DPS. Flame wall. If a projectile passes through the flame wall, it gets added fire damage, which obviously increases the ignite damage also. So finally, because I haven't invested in any minus mana cost of skills, that's why I used life tap, so the skills actually, once they get triggered, actually consume life instead of mana. But because flammability curse have such a huge mana cost, the other two skills actually have lower mana costs. But because flammability have a huge mana cost, it actually also has huge life cost. So you will notice that you sometimes lose some life if you just spam your explosive arrow, because you just trigger these all the time, because the helmet has such a little cooldown. So that's why if your stone golem dies, or if you also get some good amount of damage from the boss or whatever, you may notice that you can actually recover, you start recovering your life slower sometimes. So you may need to stop attacking for a second or use that life flask, so you can actually heal your character. or if your stone golem is dead, you might need to survive for 4 seconds and wait for it to get respawned, because it gets automatically respawned thanks to being an elementalist. So using life tap actually have a little downside from time to time. It doesn't happen much. If you can lower the mana cost of your skills, feel free to skip life tap and use inspiration instead, which again also lowers the mana cost of skills. So having a lower mana cost actually helps you to skip life tap and just focus on that mana cost. You can do that. I didn't do that. That's how I played, so I used life tap instead. But if you're not comfortable with that, again go and do that. Next piece, body armor. There are two options. First one is incandescent heart, because it gives elemental damage as extra chaos damage, which also works for ignite because this is an elementalist. So all damage can actually ignite, as we just checked a couple of minutes ago. This helm body armor also provides good armor, some life, so good overall. So one thing about this body armor, yes, this is the best DPS chest for this build right now, as a unique option, as a cheap option. I'm not sure if there is anything good for rare, because we don't want that as a league starter cheap build. But there is actually another body armor which is also cheap. It is higher Zodiac leather. This adds cold damage to both attacks, which again works for ignite thanks to being an elementalist. Also, this body armor has like 3k evasion, which will increase your evade chance a lot, and also provides suppressed spell damage. So this is actually better for defense in my opinion, but you will lose that life, and you will also have lower DPS, because incandescent heart actually provides more DPS. That extra as chaos is actually very good for DPS. But one final thing about both of the chest pieces: if you want to use incandescent heart, you must make sure that you have kept chaos resist, because that body armor also have elemental damage from hits taken as chaos damage. So even if you have kept elemental resistances, but if you have like 0 chaos resist, you can actually die. That's why you must make sure that you have also kept chaos resist. I played mostly with incandescent heart because I also have a kept chaos resist. I am also using a small cluster that have lots of chaos resist, which is not even expensive. We are going to check clusters in Path of Building section later on. But they are actually cheap clusters, so you can even buy them or craft them at a league start if you know what you are doing. So don't get afraid, these are not expensive cluster jewels at all. So in the end, if you have kept chaos resist, if you also want more DPS, go for incandescent heart. If you want more defense, if you want evade chance, those kind of stuff, if you don't want to bother with chaos resist, just go for high risk ire. Glows. Hunter bases have fire damage over time multiplier. That is probably the best option. So combine that with accuracy if you still need, resist, life, and that's pretty much it. Nothing much to explain. Boots, a good source to get life and resistances, nothing even special. Just also get some good movement speed. If you need chaos resist, if you want to play with incandescent heart, you should also put some chaos resist on these rare pieces. Amulet. There are two options. One is +1 gem, all dexterity gems, all fire gems, those kind of +1 gem amulet, because explosive arrow is fire and dexterity gem, and level is very important for explosive arrow, as I explained earlier, because it has its own damage in it. So higher gem level provides huge DPS, but I haven't gone for that because it was an expensive amulet. But if you have the budget, you can go for that. But you should actually use Awakener orb and combine both gem levels together, so your amulet actually can provide level 2 gem level total. But again, I haven't done that, so this is what I used, the other amulet. Damage over time multiplier, fire damage. I was lucky and found both at the same time. I actually haven't searched for fire damage at all. I just searched for damage over time multiplier, accuracy, and life, and found this. Also, open prefix helps, so you can actually put elemental damage with attack skills, which again increases the damage for this build, because this is an elemental attack build that actually ignites. So an amulet like this, if you don't need accuracy, obviously go for maybe more DPS or resistances, because you can do that. For the anoint, I picked Deadly Draw. I will just put it on the screen. Maybe what does it do, you can maybe use a life anoint if you even want more life for your character. And that's pretty much it. Nothing special that much. This was super cheap actually. Bought this for 40, maybe 50 chaos, because no one plays this build right now. It is not known. I am the first one who does it. That's why these kind of amulets are right now super cheap, because it is simply trash for other players. Belt, Diadian down, probably the best belt, and again it is a 1 chaos item. Ignite you inflict with attacks, deal damage faster. That's pretty much it. Deal no physical, we already do not deal any physical, so no problem. This also provides life and resistances, so a very good belt overall. Simply super powerful for a 1 chaos belt actually, and even available at a league start. Also just do it. Using Catalyst. The elemental and attack catalysts are both fine, I believe. Just press and hold Alt button so you can see that. So use the right catalyst and also improve that ignite faster value, because normally it is like 35%. If you use catalyst 20 times, it goes to 42%. So make sure you increase that quality, catalyst, whatever, so you can have even a faster ignite on that belt to boost that DPS. Finally, rings. You can go for 2 unique rings for more DPS, but you will lose life. The character might need more resistances, stuff like that. But if you can fix those, 2 unique rings actually provides more DPS. So the unique options for this build, Pyre, the fire ring. I haven't used this, by the way. This is just an example because this provides huge DPS and some good resistances. Burning damage goes up to 80%, and you can even use what was that? Catalyst again, elemental 1, to increase that burning damage to 90 something percent, 95% maybe, I'm not sure. Just do the math yourself if you want. So very good DPS. If you use 2 of these, almost 200% damage. So simply very powerful. Ignite enemies killed by your hits are destroyed. It says hits, that's why it won't work 90% of the time, because we kill with ignite, not hits. So that's why that is not super important. So you may want to use this ring for the DPS and the resistances, but this doesn't provide any life. That's why I actually skipped this. I haven't used this. And the other good unique option is a taming ring. This actually provides huge resistances. That's why I went for that, so I can focus on more other stats on other pieces. Huge resistances and some decent, actually not decent, it is again huge damage. 30% elemental damage, 20% damage with hits and ailments per freeze, shock and ignite. This character actually ignites, obviously, because it's an ignite build. Shock and not freeze on bosses, but yes, we also shock. So that's why actually that portion also works for maybe like 40% damage total. And what else? 30% damage with elemental damage with attacks also. So total of 60, I believe 100% damage, something like that. So this ring is super powerful, definitely worth the investment. It is right now 50 chaos, but this ring can be maybe like 1 exalt at a league start, because it is a little rare. You need to combine it by using the other barrack rings. I believe there's a vendor recipe for that. So just check the Wikipedia, check how it is done, you know. So you might need to craft it yourself maybe. But there is also a card for this ring. Yeah, you can also maybe get those cards. So in the end, provides huge DPS and resistances, so I definitely recommend it over Pyre. So my other ring was a rare ring because I wanted more life, and I also need dexterity because as a witch it is a little hard to get dexterity. So on some of your pieces you might need to put dexterity. I also got dexterity from the talent tree, so also go and do that if you want. It is not end of the world. Just use that 1 or 2 extra points on the talent tree. So as a rare ring you can put dexterity, life, damage to attacks, fire, lightning, cold, they all work. Elemental damage with attacks, which my ring misses. Resist, obviously. If you want DPS, opal rings are good. If you have the budget, they are very rare. That's why I skipped that as a league start build. There is actually synthesize rings that have the implicit ignite deal damage something percent faster. That is actually a very powerful ring. You might need... you can snipe one or just pay for it if you have the budget and craft something on that ring also. So those rings are also very powerful if you consider them. And that's pretty much it about the gear. As you saw, most of the pieces are super easy to get, super cheap. We even use a couple of 1 chaos uniques. So in the end, the build is actually again super cheap. Most of the investment actually goes for the awakened gems. Again, I'm telling you. We will just check the talent tree right now and check some jewels. And you will not see that most jewels are again also super cheap and non-meta. So right now we are in path of building. Obviously gonna show you the stuff that I mentioned. But before that, there is actually two versions that I prepared. One is actually tankier, one is for more DPS. So consider checking these two and play whatever you want. There's also different talent trees for both of them. But we are gonna check mostly version 1 right now. That is how I mainly played. The 90% of the clips are with this version 1. But we also have a version 2 with High Desire chest, because I explained there are two chests with Incandescent Heart and High Desire. So this one focuses on more evasion and also uses determination. You have to tick that somewhere here. So this one has more armor, more evasion, the second version, because you have to use Owl's Uprising Amulet, so you can have another aura. So something with anger, determination. There is also malevolence that we are using, I believe. So any of these auras, you can make them free by using this Owl's Amulet. There are again different versions for each auras. Just buy whatever you can afford. I haven't played with this that much because this amulet can be expensive. Anger aura, this version is right now 1 exalt because no one plays fire builds. Actually, it is a non-meta build, this kind of fire builds. So this amulet was actually cheap. If it is cheap, if you want to also put determination for more armor, you can play this version. But if you want to play what I played, this is obviously misses lots of armor, this version. That's why if you want to be tankier, this is your version that you need to play, alright? But you need to buy a good amulet first, Owl's Amulet. So version 1 is what we are gonna look at mostly. What is this? Before jewels, I just want to mention Forbidden Taste. I believe I haven't mentioned this. So because if you have kept Chaos Resist, if you also play with Incandescent Heart, stuff like that. Right now I have obviously kept Chaos Resist and even invested in maximum resistances. So my Chaos Resist is right now 81%. I don't even take anything from Chaos damage. Because as you know, Chaos damage actually hits not that hard as a base damage, let's say. Because GGG also knows that it is hard to keep Chaos Resist. So if you have a positive Chaos Resist, something like maybe even a 5 resist is actually enough to survive in this game. So if you have a kept Chaos Resist like this, you simply don't take anything. You are basically like immune because Chaos damage doesn't even hit that much in this game, normally. That's why using Forbidden Taste, maximum life taken as Chaos damage per second, that's the downside, but that won't do anything. But it just recovers life on use once you press it. But you don't need to press it because we use the orbs to craft use when you take a Savage hit. So this actually gets activated automatically and heals you almost 100%. You can even have a higher percentage, it goes up to 100%. Mine was 92%. So this actually recovers a lot of life on use, on automatic actually, because we don't use anything. We don't press it. Just use that orbs for the flasks and get that Savage hit modifier. So this is actually a very powerful synergy. So a lifesaver flask actually. And let's just also explain the jewels, and that's gonna be pretty much about the build. So first of all, do you need cluster jewels to play the build? Obviously not, but after some point there is nothing much else to get on talent tree. That's why having cluster jewels helps a lot. We also need some reservation efficiency, so this is something that no one uses. That's why I also try to get one of these. So it can be malevolence, because this also has chaos resist. That's why I picked this. But as you know, we also use anger, or depending if you use Owl's Amulet or not. You can also get maybe determination 1. So get a reservation efficiency small cluster jewel. Alright, that is important to get all the auras. But again, this one, malevolence, has also chaos resist, which is also important for this build, especially if you are playing with Incandescent Heart. That's why this was the jewel, the notable that I picked. So something like this, mana reservation efficiency. Also put maybe even more chaos resist, whatever you need. So for the large one, there are lots of options. This was something that no one uses and it was super cheap. That's why I picked this, but do not try to get this exact one. I will just also craft some more here, leave some examples. As you can see, there are lots of unused gear here. These are all good stuff for this build. So consider using other items. As you can see here, all of these unused items are actually good for this build. So I always try to do this on some of my builds if it is possible. So there are always some extra gear here. Sometimes there are like 2 items, but sometimes there are like 10 items like this one here. So just check also these. Use different clusters. I'm just gonna prepare them after the video. So this was the version that I used. For more attack speed, accuracy, mana leech, I don't know, Calamishes also provides damage, effect of non-damage elements, whatever, lots of stuff. But you can also use a fire cluster, elemental cluster. There are lots of options. To just use something in the end as large, it doesn't matter that much. But for the medium ones, you definitely need a fan the flames. So you can actually spread those ignites to a radius of 15. So this is how you can clear maps faster. Explosive Arrow has already a very, let's say, fast and good clear speed, let's say, alright. So that's why you normally maybe do not even need this, but this obviously helps a little bit, especially on packed monsters, you know, big packs, let's say. So that's why in the end you should probably use this, or use Ignite Proliferation support on your Explosive Arrow setup. But that is actually a blue gem, and we don't use anything blue actually. But on the expensive version I actually use Combustion as Animalus, Ignite deal faster. So maybe you can swap this with Ignite Proliferation, alright? So let's also just add that here, in case you might consider. So maybe skip Fan the Flames and play with this while mapping. Because this support also provides Ignite damage and also spreads the Ignite to radius of 20. So yeah, you might need to use this or that gem for extra clear. I just put Circling Oblivion here for some damage, because this was a cheap combination. Because Fan the Flames is actually a little rare, I believe. That's why other combinations, most of the combinations are actually expensive. This was one of the cheap ones. But again, maybe you can skip this and just do a gem swap if you want. For this one here, we obviously want more Chaos Resist if you want to cap that Chaos Resist. Also, Anti-Venom gives +1 max Chaos Resist. So that's why this is a good small cluster to achieve Chaos Resist. More Chaos Resist, let's say. 2 or 3 points depending on if you need more Chaos Resist or not. And that is simply how to cap Chaos Resist easier. As you can see, this shield provides huge Chaos Resist. What else? If you have the budget, these are not expensive these days. Maximum 2 Exalt right now. Transcendent Mind provides lots of damage over time multiplier per 10 int unallocated. There are actually lots of unallocated int nodes here. 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, I believe 70, but I'm not sure about the other one right now. You can also do something like this, intelligence, and calculate it yourself, obviously. So this jewel provides lots of DPS. I am not using a Watcher's Eye with Malevolence damage over time multiplier because it is expensive. Because it is also being used on other dot builds. That's why this is actually a cheaper alternative that also provides almost the same damage. And this was again something like 2 Exalt once I bought it. Because other Transcendent jewels actually got a little nerf because the talent tree got changed. Only the accuracy one is also good. But the red one that provides crit multiplier is right now pretty much dead. Because most of the locations got reworked and it doesn't provide much these days. That's why these jewels are actually cheaper compared to before. So hopefully it will be like that in the next league, so you can just afford one as soon as possible. Anima Stone for extra golem. I obviously use Watcher's Eye, but this is a cheap alternative. Malevolence damage element, you deal damage faster. This is super cheap. Most people do not even use this version. So just get that. If you have the budget, you can buy a double one. I haven't done that. I just have Malevolence, the other auras that we are not using, alright. You can also get something that has anger or determination, those kind of stuff. Try to get double one if you want. I will also maybe put some examples here, or maybe I already did. Damage faster. No, these are the same actually. Yes, there is an example. Anger, fire damage, and Malevolence faster. This is actually good. Oh, this is mine. Yeah, maybe I will also add something with determination. So consider getting a double one later on. Again, this is a low budget build, that's why I skipped that. Only use the one modifier. And finally, Glorious Vanity with Shibakua. That is important. You need to search for that. Let me just also show that here. So you can skip this jewel, but if you want to play with Incandescent Heart, this is how you can be tankier, because that also provides the same stuff and also maximum chaos resist. So you need to buy a Glorious Vanity with Ibakua. So this one here, there are actually 4 versions. So that's why this is the version that you need to buy. The numbers doesn't matter, because if you get Shibakoa, you get Divine Flash on a keystone. That's why you need to buy that. So let's say if it also converts this one here, you can also put it here. This is also a good location, so you can get Mind Over Matter, but it's gonna be again Divine Flash. So Divine Flash actually has +5 maximum chaos resist. That is how you can push that chaos resist, and also 50% elemental damage taken as chaos damage. 25% is already here, so lots of percentage taken as chaos damage. So rather than 75%, we actually take the damage from 81% chaos resist. You can also use maybe more anti-venoms and get even more. I believe there is something that gives more. This is +1. Let me see if I can find that, because I already mentioned it. Let's see if we can find. I believe there should be something that gives even more chaos resist. Yeah, this one. Let's just also add this here. Maybe you might consider it. Let's put it here. Save. Born of Chaos. +3, yeah. So you can even focus on more chaos resist, maximum chaos resist, and be even more tankier against elemental damage. So this build has no problem with elemental damage actually. So you can survive most elemental damage hits, whatever, easily, thanks to all these conversions and whatever we are doing. So yeah, a good jewel in the end if you want to be tankier, but make sure you have kept chaos resist. So you can also even combine it with Incandescent Heart. But if you play this version, you do not need this jewel, so you might skip it if you want. But if you have a kept chaos resist, this jewel still works. You don't need an Incandescent Heart to use this actually. And that's pretty much it. Nothing much else to explain. I'm not gonna explain the rest of the gems. They are already here. We already explained trigger setup, golems. I'm right now not using Ice Golem, but it is also a good alternative, as I explained earlier. Here is the mana cost reduction stuff that I also explained here, in case you missed it, for Asanat setup, because I use life tap, but you can also use inspiration if you want. Let's just also add inspiration here so you can see like this. Yeah, nothing much else to explain. Just check these yourself. Nothing crazy going on. I like using dash as Animalus because I believe it is better for my needs. Let's say travel distance helps a lot. But these are, you can just start with this and buy these later on. Some people are actually confused. They ask like if whatever Animalus, if this is necessary, if Divergent is necessary on maybe other gems. You don't need to buy those at first, obviously. That is not needed to play the build. These are just quality of life improvements. 2 setups. One is cheaper for explosive arrow, one is more expensive. Again, most of the money goes for the awakened gems. As you can see, this build uses 1, 2, 3 awakened gems. There is also awakened LA damage, but I skipped that because it is super expensive. But these are cheaper. Most of them are like 1 exalt. This was, I believe, the most expensive one. It was 2 exalt. That's pretty much it. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe. If you are feeling generous, you can be a Patreon supporter. You can also check my Patreon packages. And that's pretty much it. I will obviously have more guides coming. I try to do these kind of non-meta new builds these days because these builds doesn't exist. I don't know if I mentioned that, but I also have another explosive arrow guide that I just made as a crit version, not ignite. So also go and check that because that is also something new that no one plays. I make these builds from scratch. I try to do new builds these days, so you can actually play new stuff. I will see you later. Bye bye.